Help to Adjust Inc. presents If Testimony Was a Person. Today we have two guests. Usually we have one guest, but today it's two guests representing Poeartistry. And, this is really a treat because what you're going to see is a combination of artistry and intellectual prowess, expertise in mental health, and a strong social statement. Welcome, introducing Brother Rage.
How are you, Don?
And Brother Stone, Poeartistry.
Yes, we are happy to be
Thank
here.
you.
So because this is a phenomenon that I can't describe just with my words, hit me with 30 seconds or so.
Okay. Drop dread from my head, nothing evil about this sight. Here strong interwoven to greet my mother's sweet light. Bouncing off my temples, tapping codes to my mind, warning me of danger where the truth and happiness I may find. Far before the Rasta, there was Africa. Before she, Eden's garden, where the butterfly danced with the mongoose and the lion begged the elephant's pardon. Weeping willows modeled for these, draping manes fed by the glistening of God's tearful rains, from the ball to the blooming of these spheric cellular lances, bouncing off the upper base of our majestic melanistic dancers, each length telling tales of truth, of righteousness, of time, as others embrace theirs tapered to the stringy and sublime. My reel may drape to kiss my maker, yes, my locks are mine. The title of that piece is My Locks Mine, from the first book of Poeartistry. The reason why it's called My Locks Mine is because those that grew true locked hair, the true definition of locked hair was never dreadful on the faces and brows and bodies of melanated people. It became dreadful. We adapted the dreadful aspect. It was adopted in the definition of who we were when they saw the power of us, the power of we, the power of Mother Earth through us as dreadful. Dreaded, locked men. So we dropped dread from our heads. And if we were growing locks, they would be locks. And again, we do not speak of the Rastafari because I'm not an expert in them. But I am an expert in some ways in what I believe our beauty is. And our beauty starts from the sellout. And the sellout is locked hair.
I love that.
Thank you for allowing us to do that.
Absolute. And so, Brother Stone, in Poeartistry, you are describe your creative contribution.
I'm the producer, music producer. So the idea is, how do you take poetry? And, as you can hear, Rage has very descriptive, very visual pieces. How can you take the music and then make the music fit right along with what the words are, and support and enhance in some areas, what he's talking about. So the producer is the limited way of describing it, but the idea of it is to create a musical environment that tells the story the same way that the poetry does.
Absolutely. That's a very vivid description. I love it. So now I want to go way back. Can both of you tell me, where were you raised as, let's say, teenagers? Where were you born and raised?
Well, Lee knows the gentleman in me would like my partner to go first, but if he would allow me, no, I'm just being frank. We're both gentlemen, and we grew up in a time where men respected the space and time of one another, and we, as you can see with the scarves we wear and the way, I'm just being frank, the way we present ourselves, and we spoke of shoes before we went on camera. I don't wear sneakers with a suit. I don't even know how to do it, because as I grew up into my manhood, my professionalism, and my lifehood, you want your shoes to be set. You want your pants to be right. You want your shoes to pedestal your body. So as you speak of our past, Dr. Stone, I guess we're gonna do it like that. I grew up in New York City. My birth name is Gregory M. Singer, but I grew up in foster care basically of the 1970s and 80s, and in New York. I was born in Manhattan, Lower East Side of Manhattan, LES representing, Lower East Side of Manhattan.
Lower East Side.
Lower East Side, New York Hospital. And I claim New York City as my island. You know, some people from the world have their own islands. I claim New York City as my island.
It's your
you
island.
know?
Yeah, I
And
respect
so
it.
I'm a Knick fan, Yankee fan, Ranger fan. We'll roll with that. You know, Giants fan, most definitely on the Giants. You know, and so I migrated from Lower East Side to Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. Also Harlem was in there a little bit. 154th Street, Rucker Park. So my first ball playing, 1969, 70, and all of that. You know,
Polo Grounds area.
Polo Grounds.
Yeah.
And so my life came through the filter. My eye, Poeartistry permeates the filter of New York City. My first experience with creativity was the back of a building in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. Speaking of Daredevil, the man without fear, he cannot shed a tear. He goes round and round. He never puts on a frown, never looks like a clown. You know, in my head, I'm saying that at 9 years old because rhythm started to encapsulate who I wanted to be as a person. My nature is rhythmic. I've studied dance at Adelphi University through high school, and theater was my minor at Adelphi University.
What high school?
Beach Channel High School.
Beach Channel.
Yes, and my first play was Grease. I was the main brain, Vince Fontaine, spinning those stacks of wax. You know, you remember, because artists remember. I study the life of artists. Smokey Robinson at 6, starring in his first play, writing his first song at 6, as his father was born in the late 1800s and migrating in the song into him, and him still being alive at this time still. That's why, you know, generations leap. So the generations of my father and my mother still live within me, you know. And from Far Rock, from Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, into I migrated to Red Hook. I was in foster care. Mother passed away in the mid 70s. Father gave us the foster care in the mid 70s, and migrated to Red Hook, Brooklyn, where I lived for 3 years, and from Red Hook to Far Rockaway, from Far Rockaway to college. Yeah, so that is my New York City experience. Yes.
Yep. All right. And you, Brother Stone?
So I started off, I was born in Astoria, Long Island. And that
Long Island
was
City.
correct, Long Island City.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was someone who moved very little. You know, I was there for 1 year, moved to Springfield Gardens next with my mother and father, and grew up in that area, and stayed there until about 20-some-year-old, and then moved out to Long Island.
You have to pardon me. Springfield Gardens is where I'm from. What
Really?
street were you living on?
168th Street, right off of South Conduit.
Yeah.
You familiar with the area?
I went to IS 59 and Springfield Gardens High School and all
Now,
that.
I didn't go to the neighboring schools. I went to Forest Hills High School, you know, and then
you were too good. No, I'm only
you know what it was? For some reason, where we lived, I was zoned to go to, I want to say it was Bayside High School.
Okay.
And I didn't want to go there. You know, I just didn't want to go. I had friends who were going to Forest Hills, so I went to Forest Hills, which was actually, it was instrumental in my musical background because, you know, growing up 70s and 80s, you know, I was all about hip hop, you know, in the streets. But going to Forest Hills, I was exposed to heavy metal, rock, so that got me to listening to different things and impacted me later because the music that I liked became more what I began to produce musically. You know, I was in the heavy metal bands and all of that during high school. Got to college and went straight back into KRS-One, Public Enemy, X-Clan. You know, that was what, to me, it was very similar musically because of the emotion and the expression behind it. It had the angst, the teenage angst. You know, and that's what the heavy metal music was, what hip-hop is. You know, about the angst in the streets, you know, those messages that need to be told. So it was an easy connection to me. So, you know, went to Old Westbury College, and then I also went to Stony Brook for my master's and went to Adelphi for my PhD.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the quick story. I took you through it very quickly.
I appreciate that. Dr. Stone, what was your PhD in?
Social work.
PhD
Now,
in social work.
Yes, my concentration was looking at organizational social work. So I'm looking at what causes organizations to sustain or, you know, die off. And the process of that being a natural process, a lot of times people tend to think about death is unnatural and dangerous and afraid of it. But organizations need to die for new ones to be reborn. You know, so it's a really great process if you think about it in terms of, you know, it doesn't mean that the death of an organization means that the services in that community have to end. The other organizations and other needs emerge, then new organizations can appear. So that's kind of what the dissertation in the area is focused on.
That's interesting, even captivating, the idea of that. I want to learn more about that from you. So after high school, where do you go?
I migrate to Adelphi University, where I study psychology undergrad, minored in theater. Lee and I share the journey of both getting our masters at Stony Brook.
You notice every time I pick up the water, he says my name.
Yes, I'm trying to see the dramatic. I want that velvet.
I thought you were about to throw the mic to me again.
No. By the way, we are out the synergy, and I must compliment Brother Stone. He allowed, and through his creativity, through our creativity, our synergy in music, our synergy in creativity is a synergy in friendship. So he allows me to be as corny as I want to be.
Yeah, me too. You know.
So I migrate from Far Rockaways Beach Channel High School to Adelphi University, majored in psychology, minored in theater. Migrate from there, you know, working, then get a master's degree at Stony Brook University. Then as a school social worker, immersing myself in the lives of children, I said, I think I want to complement the leading of schools and the leading of being a dean or a principal. So I went on to Long Island University's Brookville campus. I got my advanced degrees in educational leadership, and currently I'm an educational leader. At Stony Brook, as Lee spoke of his dissertation, I did my thesis. The time when I got my master's, we had to do a thesis statement. Therapy in the age of technology.
And that was around what year?
99.
99. Right.
So prior to therapy being the online therapy process it was, I wrote my paper, and they said, just edit it for 2 hours, and you have your master's. So at that time, they knew it was coming. The reason why I wrote that was specifically because of the inequity in therapeutic settings towards general anxieties and general depressions and general disorders that weren't the acute drug aspects that the methadone clinics would permeate our neighborhoods. We get depressed also. We have depressive aspects, you know, maybe not acute schizophrenia, not the full schizophrenic aspect, but we have sleep disorders due to anxiety, due to agoraphobia and all of the phobias. So I said, what if we could meet families where they were, where they are, in a place where they felt safe, not in a place where they felt alienated. Going in, you know, when you deal with multicultural families, they think they're going into houses and they're not walking out, i.e. why some parts of our communities never leave their communities. You understand? We know the legend of the project, the Chinese food restaurant, the supermarket, and the liquor store, and the check cashing place. Money comes in, circulates, but goes back out. So I said therapy in the age of technology will allow us to heal where we are sitting, and this is 99. So what happens when COVID hits? Like Lee and these organizations, as he eloquently stated, we have always been on the precipice of the idea that we can empower the world. It happens to be through a melanated lens, but life was born through a melanated lens.
That's
the beautiful brown of the eye of Africa, born that way. We're just reminding them that we have those ideas that can permeate the same way today.
So where did you all first meet?
Well,
we were working at the Long Island EOC, which is a satellite program for SUNY Farmingdale.
Equal Opportunity Commission.
It was
a building.
It wasn't the EOC, the one that you're talking about.
Farmingdale had an extension there.
Yeah, yes. I forgot it was. People confuse it all the time with that one, but it was a SUNY Farmingdale offshoot
extension. Yeah.
Okay.
And we had ESL programs there, as well as adult literacy. You know, and for the most part, Latinx community was served there. People from the Caribbean, you know, to kind of learn English and kind of get integrated into the area, the educational area at SUNY Farmingdale. I think quite a few of the students went on to get degrees in Farmingdale. So it's kind of like the beginning, you know. But we met there. Greg was a counselor.
Yes, counselor. I had my degree, my
Yeah.
first degree, my undergrad.
And I worked in the office for administrations, for admissions. So, that was the first place we met. And, the long nights
Yes.
of downtime,
Yes.
we were just kind of collaborate. And he had a radio station at the time, the Onyx Reality.
The Onyx Reality.
Yes. Well, I'll let you go ahead, Greg. You can
We
talk.
as a people look into that deep, dark night, and thank you for bringing us down that memory lane. I love hearing Lee speak. We as a people look into that deep, dark night, not realizing that it's the ebony background that makes those tiny white stars stand out so bright. I would say that at the beginning of each show. The Onyx Reality was based in health, history, and social issues from the Afrocentric, the multitude and of the mosaic that is the Afrocentric idea that we had voices. I used to play, as we speak of BDP and beef, water relief. It's the #1 drug on the street.
Yeah,
You understand? Fight the power. A 911 is a joke. I would start my show with those, and I would have an amalgamation of different guests. So Lee and I started vibing at the Farmingdale Extension.
Oh wait, you just made something come on. Never badder than bad because the brother is madder than mad at the fact you corrupt like a senator.
PE, right. You understand?
Yep.
So that was W90.3, WBAU. So what happens? Not only am I doing 90.3 WBAU, I'm also doing basketball at Adelphi. I was the PA announcer for Adelphi University.
Well, you got the voice for it.
Well, you know what it is, and I appreciate you saying that. The one thing we want to know about those with voices, and I appreciate the One Most High for giving me anything that can accentuate any ideas we have to better our people.
Absolutely.
Is that a voice without substance? And I never wanted to be anyone like that. And you get your voice in your teens, but I've always allowed whatever I've had to be accentuated by what I've learned, and somewhere in the middle you can be. So Lee and I learned that tofu and broccoli was a tasty dish. So we started vibing. I was a vegetarian for a few years.
You learned this in the 90s.
In the 90s, yes. 90s, yes. And you know what it is? When you're trying to learn, you start to pick up things that allow you to learn that it may work this way. And you learn if you go with love and you surround yourself with people of like mind and like energy, then you may be better. You become exponentially better. You become a Hulk in your own mind without being out of control. So Lee and I started vibing. We started, getting creative, and Lee had been musically inclined and moving like that. Peace of Mind was the name, right?
Yeah, I had a rap group. Speaking of rap groups, at the time from college, and was still trying to find a way to get into doing production work and do more things in music. And at the time of Greg's radio station, it was a vehicle for us to go and actually get on the station and be interviewed. Because I actually think I had heard the show before we met. So I heard of Greg and the show, and then when he appeared to the job, we're working together, we automatically just connected, and it was a great. It was nice of you to let us a struggling hip hop group to come on his show. But so we just immediately hit it off, and it was just great experience
It's been a
from
friendship
there.
ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, when I walked over to you guys and just watched your connection, I didn't know how long you had known each other, but
been
it
brothers
came
a
to my
long time.
mind
Yeah.
that these guys have been around each other for a long time.
We've complemented each other's ideas.
Yeah.
We make a way. We never get in each other's way. Whenever Lee has had a creative thought that I could complement, there would be no Poeartistry. And I have to say this frankly, without Lee, when I start to develop the word Poeartistry, it was basically the artistry of poetry, the artistry of articulating your life. When Reggie Jackson was hitting those 3 home runs in the World Series, watching him hit that and watch the ball leave was poetic to me. Willis Reed, God rest his soul now, he was poetic to me. Patrick Ewing, even without his championship, being called a monkey at Georgetown and still winning a championship under John Thompson, beautifully, and his beautiful Jamaican accent, poetic. You understand?
Yes.
Nina Simone, poetic, named my daughter Nia Simone. So when you see poetry, when you see the eloquence and the articulation of who we are and what we can be, and not backing down, Bill Russell, not backing down in the face of all that they say you are, poetic. So when you live the life poeartistry, you live the life poetic. And I had seen Lee moving and in his rhythm, in his way, and it just so happens, and I believe in the numerology of astrology, we both happen to be Pisces. So we were like two fish that found each other in a big ocean. And if you listen, or as you listen to the Poeartistry albums, as you listen to the Poeartistry vehicle, as you look at the Poeartistry stage shows, as you look at the Poeartistry method and message, it's all about self-esteem through self-definition, the art of defining you, not the Poeartistry way. Poeartistry is the way to light your way. We're just trying to complement the connective tissue in your beautiful brains to make it happen for you.
Yeah, it's I was just talking earlier. I spoke at Drew University.
Okay.
And I was talking about that we're all trying to find the core self, because our core self, within our core self, is the ability to self-direct. Within our core self is wisdom, and so any way that you can help people to their core self is there's beauty in that.
Right. And as you know, in therapeutic terms, that's called self-actualization.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And the legend of self-actualization is only 1% of our society will become self-actualized. It is the unadulterated example of who you are. As you notice, Lee's style and your style and my style are three different styles. Now, we may be wearing similar colors, but if you can complement your style with thought and action and a pinch of detail, and in the face of opposition, become yourself, then you've lived the life, as long as you're going to live it, the life you wanted to live. And that is, if we can teach our children that, and we can teach our children to complement the loves that they will have, then we've lived the work of the One Most High. We've lived the work that will truly help. And we know we can impact the greater good like that. Yeah.
So Poeartistry has a book.
Poeartistry has 5 books.
5 books.
5 books.
Come on, show one or two of them off.
This would be first Stinky Poo. one of the 5 books. This would be out one of the children's line, and Stinky Poo. All of them are within the vein of self-esteem through self-definition. So this is Stinky Poo, children's book 1. All right. And, I'll go through the children's books, and then I'll migrate into the magnum opus. All right. This would be The Cool of Highway Slim. Again, all of the books are dedicated to children finding their voice with little to no physical objects. First emotional objects, then complements to what they are humanly. But it first starts with who they are from the mind out. From the edge of your mind to the tip of your hand, you can grip disbelief and make it disband. You can fortify this feat in an impregnable array of kaleidoscopic prowess that may light a new day, one in which your aptitude can complement your attitudes. You understand? That's what we want for these children. So that would be The Cool of Highway Slim. And La Machinista, who finds her magic in the beauty that is colors, and that her friends became colors, so that when someone tried to dampen her brightness, she knew that the pinks and the blues and the yellows and the color of love in her heart could light her own way. So those are the 3 children's books. Then we have book 1 of Poeartistry. This is Lee and my first foray into poetry, art, and music. And when you open it up, you'll see from left to right, you'll see art and music. You'll see music and art. You'll see music and words. And when you hear the full scope, you see that all you can say is you can do that, and Lee can attest. When Poeartistry first hit the stage, people said, you could do that with poetry? You can really do that with poetry. Now, of course, we come from a time when, Gil Scott-Heron, Amiri Baraka, Sonia Sanchez, and, migrating out of the County Cullens and the Renaissance periods. If you learn, you appreciate. If you learn, you understand that journey. But then you migrate into, what about all of the other aspects of what colors can do, what atmosphere can do, what physical movement can do, what poetic physical movement, what all of those pieces together, strung together, become the body of the unstoppable, the body of the imagination. From the edge of your mind to the tip of your hand, you can grip this belief and make it disband. And that's that. So this is our latest, and I'm sorry it's still in plastic, but this is our latest.
Empathy.
If I can take it out of the
Yeah.
plastic, okay. Because we are on Wonderful Live Podcast TV. But this is Poeartistry. It is designed to be only 500 of these copies. So, and I want to say, I should have said this at the beginning. This interview is going to be a legendary interview. You understand?
Absolutely.
Because the belief I have in this man that sits beside me, and the conversation that we're having, and the word that Poeartistry is, when you see it as it migrates forward, they'll say, didn't I see that on that great podcast interview? Didn't they talk about? Wow. So this will be like the Beatles when they first hit America, you know, or Chuck Berry when he was first going low with that guitar. All right? We can appreciate Chuck and James before everybody else, James Brown. All right? So the colors in Poeartistry speak of itself. It is meant to be big and wonderful and colorful and lively. Any page that I open up, becomes a world on its own. And know what happens? The way we have created Poeartistry is that when you touch Poeartistry and see it live, Lee, we recorded the album for this book over 3 years. We consider the documentary, we're doing a documentary on it called 3 Years of Sundays. And we have 36 children in this book. Now, Don, you're going to do me a favor, all right? You're going to read the first couple of sentences of this piece, just to have the experience for yourself. Would you mind indulging me on that?
Sure.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I like spots.
How much would you like me to read?
Whatever you want to read. Until it feels as natural as it feels. The title, and then move it on down.
On this side of the world, as the light of love shines on this land, touch my skin, hold my hand. It is sweet, isn't it? Reminds you of something familiar. This pulsating promise may grant you forever. Look deep in my eyes and witness your legacy. Listen to my whispering soul and grasp your destiny. That was just the first 6.
Verse 6.
Yeah.
But what is the title?
On this side of the world.
Okay. That and thank you for indulging me, because artists aren't greedy. You understand? and we want the world to speak Poeartistry. We want the world to experience Poeartistry. Just now, what do you feel about the colors, if you don't mind?
I was just about to say, I mean, it's so vivid and outstanding that it captures the imagination immediately. So you are the words. You get credit for these words, and you get credit for the music and the production behind it.
Correct.
What's the story behind the images?
And I appreciate you saying that. Artists surround themselves of people of like mind and like energy. So as Lee and I migrated in words and music, I also migrated towards endeavoring artists. So in book 1, there was Andre Razin, who happened to pass in 2017. And on book number 2 was the great Jamal Bam Tate, who's in Vegas right now, but I met him again through my radio experience. We met at 90.3 FM, and we became fast friends, and we endeavored ourselves in different art forms. He also designed all of the watermarks, and we always wanted to do a book together. I knew the second book of Poeartistry couldn't be just, along the lines of just any empty space. I wanted the book to migrate into all full color, the full spectrum. Because when Lee and I created the atmosphere of Poeartistry Book 2, it will be a living testament to walking into something, walking into the colors, the life, the vibrancy, or a vibrancy, unlike anything you've ever experienced. They've had these different shows going on, but there will be nothing like the Poeartistry stage show, nothing like.
Rage, if I can just
Please.
interject. The creation of the album, Empathy.
Yeah.
Greg, if you can just pull the book out one more
Sorry.
time. Rage, I'm sorry. What we actually did in the development, there are 36 pieces. So in the studio, which is the first time I ever worked this way, we visualize what the stage performance would be for each piece. So Greg, what do you see for this? Lee, I see a dancer doing this, doing that. I see. So between that and
Each
also
piece almost has a life of its
its
own.
own life.
36 children, brother.
And it was
Big
about
family.
looking at the colors and feeling the words and developing from there, which was a really interesting way of creating. So organic to just kind of plug into that and build music from that. And it was not only organic, but fun. It was really,
see that.
just creatively, it was really just interesting to push yourself that way,
So go back into your music history a little bit. So you told me that you were exposed to heavy metal and even were in a band in high school, right?
Yeah, and the stuff that we were Slayer, Metallica, like way out stuff. Yeah.
And then you ended up doing beats, producing some hip hop.
So, and how did that come about? When I was after undergrad, I was going around to different record labels, just trying to get things going. Never quite got anything happening, and I met along the way Pharaoh Monch from a group called Organized Confusion. And how we met was a friend of his and a friend of mine were going to the gym, so we started working out together. He had just been out of his deal with I think it was Priority or Hollywood Basic, and he didn't have a deal. So I said, well, listen, let's work on some music together. What we worked on ended up becoming his first solo album, and it produced the song called Simon Says.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I can curse on here, but the Get the Fuck Up was the chorus. And it became like really well known
Legendary.
in the streets, using different movies and everything. So from that, I just got open to the industry and worked with Method Man, Shine from Bad Boy, and the most recent thing was Big Sean and Kanye. So I just been doing, music. Always had a foot in music and therapy at the same time. So that's the quick story of it. But always heavy metal and hip hop is kind of my roots.
Lee, I think he sometimes, because he is a graceful man, tones down the magnanimity, I guess it would be, the magnificence and eloquence and beauty and inspirational movement that he does from scratch. All right. The reason why it was so much fun is because we all were in the kitchen like kids, and we were able to get our hands dirty. Mom and dad spiritually allowed us to just cut the onions with dull knives to make vibrant meals. And when you journey through Poeartistry, when you journey through this, there will be no dry eyes in the audience. It will be joyous, because it was such a joy putting this together.
Yeah, it
such
really
a
was.
magnificent journey of originality, of passion, that we look very forward to helping all segments of our society. You see, as you know, mental health practitioner, therapy doesn't look at, we understand that colors have different detriments because of the way our society has worked. But the spirit of the true therapist is the same credo of the doctor: to do no harm, is to do no harm. So whoever is presented to us, be you an 8-year-old child that they already have on Ritalin or Concerta, or be you a 70-year-old lonely, depressed woman who happens to be white, black, Italian, Chinese, with your loss, we greet you where you are and try to get you where you believe you can practice where you want to be. You know? Therapy is about bridging the gap. I never tell my clients, what to do. I ask them to consider what you would like to do, how you would like to do this, and can you, once you ask, practice it? Because we will provide you the technique. It's, can you practice what you are asking? Because you have a right to be depressed. You understand? Yeah. You have a right to have your relationship with dysfunction. You have that right. No one in the world can say, stop being dysfunctional. We can ask you to consider, if you ask us to help you not be dysfunctional, well, can you practice this after our brief 1-hour sessions per week? Yeah. Can you practice? Because we will engage you in a beautiful journey in yourself. And that permeates Poeartistry. You understand?
So it's truly a whole picture. You have the visual piece.
Yes.
You have the verbal piece. You have the music, and the music, from what you said, comes from
Absolutely.
holistic view. Maybe y'all are discussing,
Oh, yeah.
you're
Yes.
feeling things.
yeah.
We,
Yeah.
you know, when we started the project, I was going in a different direction with it because the first album was more kind of beat poetry, and I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to just do something different, have it more of an academic exploration. So it's kind of almost theater.
So when
know.
you say just beat poetry, this is like kind of saying the poetry over the percussion.
Well, you know what it was? It was just kind of beats that I had left over that Greg was able to marriage. You know, so that was the first album.
Album 1.
The second album started off just being environmental music, birds, ocean, you know, almost meditative.
Okay.
And Greg, maybe 2 or 3 sessions in, was like, "Come on, man, you gotta. They're gonna need the dancers are gonna need something to move to." That was really when he said that, I was like, "Okay, so we need to do a little something to start building a pulse."
Yeah.
And I got to give it to you, Greg. You were patient with me.
Yes.
It was funny for me. I was at a point in, I guess, my creative process when I didn't want to do. I wanted to do something different. So when Greg spoke about it, I was like, yeah, this is an opportunity to just break away from the beats and just do something. But it really called for what we ended up making. You know, we sat down, we discussed it, we felt it. And it was a labor of love to create. It was a lot of fun. I don't think at any point did we have any real disagreements about it. It just kind of happened organically. We had other people come into the sessions and contribute here and there, but really a really wonderful, you'll find jazz on there, you'll find house music, you'll find funk,
Full
soul,
orchestration, Broadway.
orchestration.
Wow.
Yeah. Just
Very seldom and very beautiful. And I still get chills thinking of the journey that Lee and I have been on as brothers, as creative brothers, as friends. And this Poeartistry album, you know, we're going to grow young together. I don't even talk of age spiritually, because spiritually we'll live forever, specifically through what we have created. But very seldom can you put efflorescent epiphanies together. You understand? You use those words separately because they can stand alone. But this was an efflorescent epiphany. It glows so brightly. It speaks so spiritually. But Lee remembers when people would walk in, they would want to experience whatever we played about 2 or 3 or 4 times. They're like,
Yeah.
I got to hear that again. No. What are you guys doing here? You understand? Because we did not get in each other's way. We made a way for each other. And Lee would say, because again, my background is stage, is upstage, downstage, points in a stage, using your upper body, lower body, understanding the nuances and the cadences of hearts beating the same pace. In colors as clear as the crystals are bright, we can leave behind these desolate nights and stand with the ready of our ancestors' souls. Our backs can bear the weight of our forefathers' tolls. You understand? And that is how Poeartistry is carried musically. That when we created in these steps, you know, excuse me, please, but have you heard of a mighty time and its many words, of a polite power draped in black and white, where the astute and sensible marched with both the day and the night. You follow? When we created that atmosphere, it is an atmosphere that pulls you into the desolation that we must have felt when you're walking down a dark street that is your own neighborhood after an hour that it becomes someone else's neighborhood, because you are now in danger because of your beautiful black skin, because your beautiful black skin in a feminine body, because you are 9 years old and you had to work because you had to help your parents out in some place in America where you could be killed just for the simplicity of being born a shade darker. You understand? Now, we believe, and this is Poeartistry speaks of this too, psychologically, we believe that we move so far away from that. But how do we move so far away from that, where every other episode of the news, on the CBSs, on the NBCs, on the Foxes, that every time someone is arrested, you close your eyes as a black man and say, man, I'm hoping not Jamal.
As long as I've been alive, as long as I can remember watching the news, I remember my parents say, I hope this person is
Okay. Now, your parents said that, and we think, and we want to believe that movements help, right?
Yeah.
movements will help about 300 years from now. Because it's going now, we must move through these 300 years. You understand?
Right.
When we were going through because we recorded the album through the whole BLM movement.
Right.
See, it went from Black Lives Matter to BLM. Once something becomes an acronym, it's like BMW. You understand? No one says Bavarian made motors. You know, they don't even say Mercedes anymore. They say Benz. You understand?
Yeah.
Once something becomes a shortcut, you think your job is done. Once it becomes a nickname or a shortcut, people believe your job is done.
You've arrived.
There's no arriving. There's no arriving. You understand? There's always the journey, because if you are arrived, you are a rooted tree just going up and not going left or right. Living things keep moving. So when that whole movement was going on, my daughter calls me. She's marching in Teaneck, and she says, "Daddy, you need to march." I'm like, "I don't need to march." I'm like, I marched my whole life. I'm like, I marched to the Delphi. We've been moving. Our whole Poeartistry has always been that. I don't need to do all of that. She said, "You need to march. I need to march. You need to go out." So I go out, and Lee knows. I'm like, "What the heck am I going out for?" We happened to be off of the studio that day, because we were recording through that time. She says, "Daddy, you need to march." I said, "All right." So I go to the end of my block. I march 6 miles that way, 6 miles that way. Newsday quotes me as if I'm leading the march. Gregory, and I wasn't going out there. And I say this sincerely. Gregory Singer, one of the march leaders, and I'm quoted as saying, "These crowds will disperse. People are going to go home. Live your life as your protest." You dig? Because I've always lived my life as my protest, that foster children are not supposed to have any college degrees. You understand? 1% of us that grew up in the foster care system, that black men abandon their children and abuse the chance to be more than what stereotypically we're supposed to be. I'm not that guy. I understand how to be that guy. Lee understands how to be that guy. You understand how to be that guy. Your parents telling you and wishing that you're not going to be that guy on TV. I'm not going to be that guy. I love my brothers. There's no fear going into any of our neighborhoods, but I'm going to carry myself as I know how to. And once you know and you demonstrate differently, that is in need of psychoanalysis. When you demonstrate the indifference of who you want to be and who they want you to be, that is the need of therapeutic massaging to help you get somewhere where you can carry yourself. You deserve, in a love, to carry yourself, thus changing the cadence on a cellular level of your generations. Generations need to be changed on a cellular level, not a semantic level.
Yeah.
You see why I produce him?
I see.
Sometimes it gets to go.
So, what are the youngest children you work with therapeutically?
Therapeutic, I would say 8 to 80. You understand? So my youngest client right now is 7 years old, trying to understand why vibrantly he reacts physically when his mother and father say no. Understand? 9 or 10-year-old that realizes that his father goes like this and he goes like this, and your father says, "I don't want you to go like this because going like this didn't help me." And then the father comes to me and says, "Can you ask my son not to do this?" So I always meet with the parent first and try to articulate the practice through the parent, and then I migrate to the attention span. You understand? People believe that because you're providing a 45-minute to an hour therapeutic session, that a 8-year-old child is going to have the attention span of 30 minutes. You understand? You're lucky, and we all know this as practitioners, you're lucky if you can double the time of their age. So if you get 18 minutes out of a 9-year-old child.
It's a good principle, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Through checkers, through colors, through laughing, through not using the King's English at a 6th grade level, but at a 4th grade level, through trying to meet them eye to eye in a safe space, then therapeutically you are massaging a memory for them like tying their shoes. Remember, memories, and this is our therapeutic way, the reason why Poeartistry was created in 4 different pathways is because we learn through the physical, we learn through the emotional, we learn through memories, we learn through how do we protect ourselves through color, through sound, through the awareness, through hearing sentences in between conversations, so that if someone over here is saying, "I'm going to get you," You heard the get you and you get out. Your hyper awareness. We have to teach our children sometimes to be hyper aware of their environment, to move before they are moved. Because when they are moved, sometimes by the wrong people, they are lost in their movements. That is the eloquence of teaching someone to protect themselves, sometimes from themselves. So that was, as you speak, you asked the first question,
Yeah.
8, and we migrate up from there.
So, Dr.
And Lee
Stone,
also, yes, I'm sorry.
you also
Yeah,
have treated children.
Yeah, I started off working at South Shore Child Guidance, and I guess the youngest, about 7 years old, 6 or 7 years old, all the way up to 16 when I was there. It was my first time working with clients, and what you do learn, as follow along with what Greg mentioned, the parent. What you find out if you see a child having difficulty, you speak to that parent, you can quite often see where the problems are and what needs to be done there. Family therapy is very important in working with children. It's not just a child in isolation. Very often that parent needs to kind of hone skills in parenting, sometimes in discipline. And, but the thing that I really think with our children is important, what I saw, to have Black men as good role models, especially for the Black boys. Very often in schools, they don't see us. They see us getting arrested on television, as Greg mentioned earlier. But to be a real representation of what it is to be a Black man with a job and in a helping position, that in itself was very therapeutic for those children.
Yeah. And so I'm interested in hearing one of your children's pieces, because I'm imagining that this the philosophy that you guys have about not trying to advise people, but trying to get people to their core, so that you can learn self, would be demonstrated in.
Yes, of course. I'm going to go with La Machinista. It is the middle of the two of the three children's books. And again, La Machinista was inspired. I was speaking to a staff member in my office, and she was wearing two matching colored pieces of jewelry, and it was inspired by her and my daughter Nia, who was wearing a pair of glasses as a child, and she's always wanted to be a fashionista.
And Nia's the same one who wanted you to march.
Right. And so I have to compliment, and I love my family, Miles, my firstborn son, and Miles Jordan, and Nia Simone, and Rocky, I love you too, of course. But this was dedicated to Nia, because Nia, again, wanted to become a fashion-oriented a model, and she started her idea of modeling as a little child, in glasses and wearing her mother's shoes and all of those different aspects. And so I'm looking at this back to the staff member, and she's wearing a matching pieces of jewelry. And I said, well, aren't you a little machinista? And then it hits like an epiphany. Sometimes, like the word poeartistry hits you like an epiphany, a bright light. And then you're like, I have to do something about it,
Right.
And so it migrates through there. So I'm going to share with the audience, as brief as I can, La Machinista by Rage Sinclaire of Poeartistry. Okay, so page number 1, and I'm going to read it like I would read it to a class. On this yearning yellow of this new day's rise, La Machinista opens her beautiful brown eyes. In the haze of the red of the horizon's distant hue, the bright sun burning off the green grasses' gray dew. Again, she awakes with colors. Movement is medicine, you must know that. Her thoughts are of colors, and how they rise her feel, make her run and jump, motivating a meal. Be it the orange in the balance of the ready round bowl, the black on the blacktop making the building stand tall. Shout out to WNBA. All right. The caramel coat of the stray cat's fur that keeps her warm when the cold chills her. Again, your relationship with animals and how, children find, support in that understanding. The shining gleam on the dog's brown nose, flashing his smile. He is happy, I suppose. If you can show compassion to an animal, you can show compassion to a human. That's just me. The indigo butterfly flaps his wings, gently landing on the violent padding on the playground swings. Okay. It is my kind of color day at the priceless elementary school, where the students wear their favorite shade from their family's favorite spool. On this day of days, some might say La Machinista was born. She had come to play. She felt her style, so young in part, came from her happy place, deep in her heart. In this moment in time, she had come to say that one color is all she needed, that all would know her way. She will wear all pink from head to toe, from the barrettes in her hair to her waist and the bow, to the buckle on her shoe, to the socks and their frills, to the bracelet on her wrist, to the sunglasses mirror seal. And the final touch, it is her style alone, a beautiful umbrella accented by candy cones, the flavor a lighter shade of lighter pink that she twirls with joy above where she thinks. About all the days ahead to come and the colorful colors that make her sing and hum. The end. This is also based in Roy G. Biv.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. The colors of the rainbow.
Right.
If a child knows their colors, you will know what colors mean to you. The red, the brown, the indigo. If you can understand colors, you have more that you can defend yourself with how colors communicate. The blues and the whites and the reds and all that goes with it. But again, poeartistry was created with the education of self to educate the world, based in Roy G. Biv.
Yeah.
But thank you for letting me share.
Oh, man, no, pleasure. La Machinista is a real person.
She's
Like
a real-
you, like when I look at these pictures,
Thank you.
her smile, the things that she's saying, it feels like this is a person that can come to life.
And that is the ultimate compliment, because as Lee and I have attempted to create every piece in poeartistry, every piece throughout the children's books, we want children and families and grown women and young women and grown men and young men to see themselves in their poetry, in their possibilities. I only want to write and rhyme because we live in rhythm. You understand? I can write in other ways. I have one or two aspects that in poeartistry, one I took a slide to the left, which is beautiful. But I want to write in a rhythm, like the rhythm of the ocean. The ocean never sounds out of beat. Never sounds out of beat. You understand? When you listen to the streets in the car, everyone hears like they're going forward, and you hear a horn over here, falls right in the beat. You understand? Back for people aren't even startled unless a horn sounds out of whack. You understand? We live in a rhythmic world, and everything is based on the cadence of our steps, the rhythm of our conversation, the beat of our hearts. That is what poeartistry is. It is the poetry of life. It is the poetry of what brings us together and allows us to be ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, this fusion of creativity is amazing.
Thank you so much, Don.
Yeah, thank you.
So first of all, you guys are going to get an invitation to perform somewhere. I don't know where yet,
Okay,
but
brother. All right.
you know, we have events, and we definitely would love,
We'd love to support that.
yeah, the
Definitely.
energy. So if people would like to get in touch with Poeartistry or either of you individually, would you give your handles?
Well, you can come to poeartistry.com, and you can the way to contact us on poeartistry.com.
Yep.
Easy to follow.
Okay.
You can look us up on on all of the current social media platforms. But poeartistry.com would be the best place to visit, because you'll get a chance to see the history, the growth, the consumable aspects of poeartistry. Also invite us to where you'd like to invite us, and see how we can best complement your journey. Again, poeartistry is a conduit for you to find your way. And when you embrace poeartistry like that, you'll know that, like hearing "Isn't She Lovely" for the first time, you never forget it. "Ribbon in the Sky," hearing, as you did with PE, "Fight the Power," as you saw Elvis in 1966 in that leather outfit. It was what it was. He was doing R&B through rock and roll. It was what it was. You understand? And it still is what it is. So if you want to find us, you will find yourself at poeartistry.com. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Social media platforms are there to come at, Poeartistry for Instagram, TikTok. We're developing everything now. But individually, in terms of therapy, we're both found on Psychology Today.
Yes.
Dr. Lee Stone and Gregory M. Singer.
Yes.
And I'll add a plug-in for my wife as well. She's also a therapist. She's on Psychology Today.
Magnificent.
Under I Listen Counseling.
I listen.
I Listen, yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And we are here in service to our society. So although we permeate the ideas of the survival of our African American and multicultural collective, you know that when you heard that, you saw your child, you saw every child.
Yeah.
You saw Nikki Giovanni, you saw, all of the different models in that, but children also the athletes and those that appreciate colors and life.
Absolutely.
The beauty of individual style is what permeates throughout poeartistry. That's why no two pieces are the same, but they all feel a little familiar, like your left and right hand.
Now that is a testimony. Help to Adjust presents If Testimony Was a Person. And you guys are absolutely a testimony to creativity and to bring in empowerment.
That's what we want to do.
Like, subscribe, and share. Peace and love. We shall connect.